Hi everyone, in this lecture we're going to learn about pattern of organization and the use of transitions. Now, a general structure of academic writing is that it begins with a piece of broad information, and as we go down the text, the information becomes more specific. This broad information is what we call the main idea of the text, and it's usually written in what's called a thesis statement. The thesis statement is usually in the introduction paragraph, and it's usually the last sentence of this paragraph. So let's say that the main idea, the thesis statement says, learning English is important. Then the following paragraphs are what we call body paragraphs. Each body paragraph focuses on one point that supports the thesis statement in the introduction. The body paragraphs also follow a general to specific structure. Usually the first or the second sentence is the topic sentence of the body paragraph, and the rest of the body supports the topic sentence. So in each body, the topic sentence supports the main idea, the thesis statement that learning English is important. Finally, the conclusion wraps up the text by summarizing the main points and relating it all to the main idea of the passage. In terms of TOEFL reading, some passages do not have a concluding paragraph. So that's the general structure of academic English and TOEFL passages found in reading, listening, speaking, and writing sections. However, do keep in mind that depending on the topic of the passage, the structure may vary. But this is a general structure for most TOEFL and academic texts. So it's important that you become familiar with this structure. Additionally, this is an overall general structure of TOEFL and academic text, and the way the details in the text is organized will vary depending on the topic and the argument or the logic the author wants to create. The way the author organizes the information in the text is what we call a pattern of organization. And the main patterns of organization are listing, addition, time order, process, compare and contrast, classification, cause and effect, definition and illustration. And depending on the topic of the text and the logic the author wants to create, he or she will use one primary pattern of organization and use various other secondary patterns of organization. For example, if the text is about the development of cinema, the main pattern of organization may be time order. The author may go through the key developments in chronological order and use other patterns of organization, such as cause and effect, to explain how each development led to the development of cinema. To give another example, if the topic of the text is about symbiotic relationship, and that's relationship between organisms in nature, the author may use definition and illustration to define each kind of symbiotic relationship and then provide examples of such relationships in nature. So certain topics tend to use certain kinds of pattern of organization, and authors tend to use one main pattern of organization and various other patterns to organize the details in the text. Now, the next question is, how does an author organize the details in these patterns of organization? Well, an author uses certain words and phrases to organize the details in these patterns, and we can refer to these words and phrases as transitions. A transition is a word or a phrase that helps to form relationships between ideas. And a transition can be many different kinds of words. They can be coordinating conjunctions, they can be subordinating conjunctions, they can be prepositions, they can be adverbs. We also have something called conjunctive adverbs, and they can be various other phrases that help to form relationships between ideas. And each transition helps to form a certain type of relationship, which in turn creates a certain pattern of organization in the text. Consider the following paragraph that uses some of these transitions. You may pause the video and read the text, or download the PDF file from the resources section and read it in a separate file. Please pause the video now. In this paragraph, we have various example transitions which help to support the idea before. And we also use an addition transition also to add a similar idea to the argument. So the two patterns of organization we see are illustration and addition. Let's consider another paragraph. Please pause the video now. The paragraph begins with a contrast transition, however, which immediately tells us that there is some kind of compare and contrast relationship in this text. And that relationship is between regular cities and cities in a desert. Additionally, as you move down the paragraph, there are more words that continue the theme of developing contrast relationship between ideas. Also, to explain the reasons behind why such differences exist, the author also uses cause and effect transitions, and there is also a listing transition to add another similar detail. So this paragraph's main pattern is contrast pattern, but there is also cause and effect and listing pattern. So dependent on the topic and the logic the author wants to create, the author can use transition words and create different patterns of organization in his or her writing. And it's really important that you are able to identify these transition words, as this will help you to understand the structure and the meaning of the passage. Now, at this stage, if you don't feel entirely comfortable with the concept of what transitions are, and you're not sure whether you're able to identify these transitions in the text, do not worry. As we go through different passages in reading, listening, speaking, and writing sections of this course, we will refer to all the transitions that we come across, as identifying transitions and the pattern of organization is a key process in general comprehension and also in answering many other questions in the reading and the listening section. In the resources section, there is a reference sheet with some examples of transitions. So do use the reference sheet for self-study purposes. Okay, so that's it for this lecture on pattern of organization and transitions.